And it is time for the early week edition of Sportsbook Confessions. I'm Brady Tinker at DFW Sports Beat alongside my good friend Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest. A fantastic NFL super duper wild card weekend. Coaching changes to talk about and a lot to do here. Welcome to Sportsbook Confessions. Tonight on Tuesdays, we often do our reflections of things that we sort of thought might happen, and we kind of have to admit they didn't, or they did. We'll give ourselves a pat on the back every now and then. I have my back scratcher that I use that with. How are you this evening, Jeffrey? What's the weather like on the Eastest Coastus?
It's been raining, snow, sleet for the last 3, 4 days. Haven't seen the sun, it seems like, in forever. Not quite winter, maybe something brewing in the weekend, but we had a white Christmas, an
Nice.
inch and a half, first time in
Nice.
forever. But that's it. It's been monsoon season. And I'm one of these guys that I want that one big storm. I want the 3-day lead up. I want everyone running for the bread, for the eggs, for the milk.
The distilled water.
Yes, drop 2 feet, get it done, get it over with, and get ready for March in Vegas.
Yeah, I hear you. Growing up in Kansas City, I'm with you. We were 71 today under partly sunny skies, and the humidity is kind of up. So it's odd, but we've jumped back and forth to where you wake up some mornings and it's 32, and you walk the dog, and you remember last night it was 71, so you're not dressed, and so people are getting sick. COVID is running rampant here. There are a lot of people here really getting COVID, and nobody really knows what to make of it, right? The older people are certainly still really worried, and the younger people seem to think it feels like a minor case of the flu. Knock on wood, I haven't had any issues with that. Has the Dawson household had COVID issues?
Yeah. No, my daughters and wife have had it a couple times. I've had it once. We got the 2 shots in the booster, but my daughters are walking around with that croupy cough and everything, and it sounds, like a bad chest cold, but they're young and they're just battling through it.
They're bouncy. NFL recap, if you will. The number 5 seed Dallas Cowboys exercised a 30-year demon at the number 4 Tampa Bay Bucks, who, I don't know, where were the bag people in this game? This was tough. Let's just, before we summarize, where were the bag people on this game?
I called this
Dallas -2, right? You were all over the Cowboys from the beginning. I totally will give you credit. Anybody watching us last week gave the points and was all over a belief that Vegas had this right. You felt that way as well. I'm too close to it here, right? I know about the injuries. I know about 30 years of not winning a playoff game on the road. I know about you never beat Tom Brady. And I know that there is such an anvil of weight on the shoulders of the important people here. This was going to be tough. And 2 straight 3-and-outs didn't look great. But the good news was that the Bucs reciprocated with two straight 3-and-outs. And the Cowboys went on to play probably the best game they played all year, other than maybe the Minnesota game when they won 40-3. And Dak Prescott stepped up when many people didn't think he would. Where were the bag people? You were on the Cowboys. There probably weren't bags of money coming in one way or another on this game, were there?
I would have classified this as a pros versus Joes as early as the line came out when I saw Dallas -3, and then I saw all the hoopla of Tom 7-0 and 30 years of misery, how bad Dallas has looked the last 4 or 5 weeks, and on and on and on. Listen, if Tampa had opened 2-point favorites and then it swung to Dallas, I would have respected more on Tampa, but I knew right away which side we were going to lean on. So I would say the sharper bag guys were definitely on Dallas. And I'll let a little cat out of the bag a little for Thursday night, and I've done 4 shows already today. This is number 5. And I've said the same thing on every show is I was waiting for 2 numbers, Brady. Once that game was final last night was, am I going to see the 5.5, 6 number, or am I going to see the 3.5, 4 number? Don't forget, short week, 4th straight game on the road. So I was thinking I'd see the 5.5, 6. As soon as I saw the 3.5, now 4, I know where I'll be again on this game. There's absolutely zero doubt. Our good friends at Circa right now are getting cute and coy. 3.5 minus 5 cents. They're basically taking a stake on the Cowboys. Says, hey, don't rush. We'll take as much as you want on the Niners. We're all set. And we'll see.
Well, the narrative here for just the people on the outside looking in, not necessarily the know-it-alls, is, well, the San Francisco quarterback's been very good, perfect, damn near, but he hasn't played a good team yet. The best team really that he played, I think, in his first or second game was the Buccaneers, who had no momentum or anything else going. And I hadn't really noticed that. I'd noticed them just rolling, right? They haven't lost since McCaffrey stepped foot off the airplane. And they do seem to be playing great football. So the locals are hanging their hat on, because I've told everybody, this team that you're getting ready to play at San Francisco is probably 40% better than the one you just rolled over in Tampa overall. So, everybody needs to be ready for that. Prescott was virtually perfect. 305 yards, 4 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing, used his legs just the right amount on our off of the helmets. I told everybody, listen, let's just be honest here. Dak Prescott is a slightly above middling quarterback that can play well, who is a really great kid. He is a double threat in that he can use his legs. But if the Cowboys don't run the football well, Dak Prescott can't play great. He just can't. Let's just tell it like it is. And that's about a lot of these, pretty good quarterback. Kirk Cousins is way better, when his running back duo, which is really talented, gets an opportunity to get out there and run, right? These 3 steps and out, 5 steps and out, it's a much easier game. And I predicted, I'm like, if Pollard can get 80 yards, I'll take 80 yards against a pretty good Tampa front with 3 or 4, 15 yards or 12 yards where he bothers them. He scares them on the edge. That will push people back a little bit. Well, he ends up, I'll say, 15 for 77, 2 catches for 20 yards. And patting myself, because he did have an 18, a 12, and I think a 9, which just are enough to get the defensive coordinator and everybody going, he can go to the house. And we're doubling CD, so we do have to pay attention to him. But I thought the Cowboys were great. I really did. And I'm happy for the fan base around here. It's been a long time. There are a lot of kids here, Jeff, as you know, who've really never seen this Cowboy team be anything but sort of fun. Romo's years were fun. They just didn't win any playoff games. So this was a big hurdle. Unbelievably, I think McCarthy might have been on the hot seat a little bit if they'd have gotten rolled in this game. So he's settled in. And as you said, looking forward, Cowboys in San Francisco is going to be a good football game. And for us in our age bracket, it heightens thoughts of Montana and Steve Young and Charles Haley being on one team and then being on the other team in prime time. And those were so much fun to watch in the mud and Candlestick, it seemed like always, with the catch, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't wait for that. Can't wait for it.
And let's be truthful. Your only concern is Mr. Mayor with the yips. I mean, listen, I'm driving home. I left the bowling alley, it was 6-0. I'm on my phone. It's 12-0. I'm waiting for the extra point. And I'm like, he missed the second one. By the time I got home, it was 18-0 and he missed his third. I'm like, guys, I think Mayor took the Bucks plus the 2.5 here. I don't know what's going on. When he missed the fourth one, I tweet out the picture of the replacements and the field goal kicker for them. I'm like, I think he definitely has a contract out on him. And for any player in any sport, you can correct this in a couple days. You can work on this or that, but it's like you and I getting on the driving range, trying to fix a pull, a slice. I don't know what's going to happen come Sunday when he lines up. I'm petrified.
Well, and because people will want to know who are thinking about making bets, and you like the Cowboys, and I do as well. The talk here Monday, Tuesday, as we head into Wednesday, a huge practice day and game plan day for a Saturday game, is that they're not even bringing anyone in to, in theory, have on the practice squad. And I'm a Maher fan. He's had an unbelievable season, but you have to factor in all things. Maher's career has been just okay. He's been cut by 5 NFL teams, 4 CFL teams. One of the NFL teams he's already been cut by is this one. So this season isn't the norm where he's kicked a 60 and a 62-yarder. This season is the outlier. So that's the first thing I think about. Second, if you feel some sense of loyalty to the young man, then don't cut him. But I'll be damned if I'm taking my team, who I think has a chance to play in the final game of the season, to San Francisco on what can be a rough field with weird weather and everything else, and having him wonder whether he can make an extra point, not a 48-yarder under duress, an extra point. I personally can't believe it. And the narrative around here is, yeah, that's probably right. I'm like, the hell it is. I would have had 3 kickers in the Star here indoors on the turf when I got off the airplane from this game. Now, we don't have to say we're signing in them, but I would have had the guys who are available in there. And if somebody stood in there and made 40 field goals or 40 out of 45 field goals from between 45 and 50, and the noise, like we hear with a baseball bat or whatever, was just right, I damn well would have signed him. I would have. We've watched these kickers. This stuff does happen. Actually, the Chiefs kicker is struggling.
Oh, big time.
A little bit, right? He's struggling, and that whole thing is blown up. And now the feedback coming from the old punter who used to be his holder is, it ain't him, it's your punter who's doing a terrible job getting the ball down the right spot and the laces in the right spot. Whatever all of this is, the machine or whatever it is they call it, it's a little broken in Kansas City. They claim it's not him, but I can't imagine that you watch what you watch if you're the Cowboys, and this is the most important game you've played in 26 years. And you're going to San Francisco against that team where you damn well will need every point you can get. And you're going to wonder if not only can he make a field goal from 38 yards, can he make an extra point from however long that is? What is it, 35 now? So I'm shocked by that. I really am. I am shocked by it. Loyalty's one thing, whatever. But that guy was total Mackie Sasser. Who else couldn't throw the ball to second base, right? He was total.
Boone.
Huh? Yeah. I mean,
was it Boone?
And I love him, and you bring him back next year, and maybe he gets over it, or even give him a week off, right? And if he has 2 good weeks of practice, then he's in the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, whatever. But I'll be damned if I wouldn't have some bodies in the Star right now, thundering kicks, seeing somebody got hot. I can't imagine it.
I was on my intramural softball team in college, and we had a wagon, and they put me at second base. And I mean, practices, scrimmages, I was a stud. Get me into it right after the first inning. We're warming up and we're getting ready for the game. First batter, grounded to me. I couldn't throw it to first. I couldn't. Once the light went on, I couldn't throw it to first. Finally, I'm like, guys, I've had enough. Just get me to the keg. I'm moving on, please.
Listen, the brain is one of the most marvelous things ever, right? As far as we're concerned as human beings, but we also don't know how to use very much of it. And it does go haywire. And I remember a personal story playing. This had nothing to do with anything, but my son and I, who was a college golfer, and I was an old college golfer, one summer we said, we're going to do between the two of us, no one watching, no money on the line or anything. And we're going to do a mano because he's a college golfer now, between you and me. And we went out and played at a local, at the WinStar Country Club golf course. And through about 11 holes, I was a couple under and playing great. And it was hot. And I drove a ball up by a par 4, short par 4, about 50 yards in. And I walked up to see where I was going to land it, walked back down. And when I went to hit the ball, I had no feeling for what 50 yards was, which is very unusual. I knocked it almost over the green. I think I 4-putted. I 3-putted the next hole and the next hole and imploded. But it was an oddity because I wasn't losing. I was winning. You know what I mean? So normally, if you're pretty good at something and you're doing well, the wheels don't fall off when you're doing well. And so I almost wonder if somehow or another this kid had a little tweak of something, or you know what I mean, in a back or somewhere that bothered him, and then he was playing through it. But he's been listening for weeks about how they don't win in 30 years, and all of a sudden it's magnified on himself. I don't know. I just remember having a day that seemed as if it was a total choke, and I've choked plenty of times in sports, but that wasn't it. You know what I mean? Something happened that day that threw me off, and I didn't really realize it until a week later when I began to think about it. And I wonder if something like that happened to this kid too, if that's what they're thinking, No,
yeah, and I think you're perfect example too. Something at practice, something at home, slipping in the shower, bending down, like you said. Yeah. And then what do? We obviously want to overcompensate. And then he misses the first one. Okay, not a problem, kid. Then he misses the second one. Then the brain really starts going. And at that point, I was almost like, go for 2. They don't. So the funny is this, Brady, and we know Tom's on the sideline. It's 24-0. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you need the extra point. So the basic math is okay. 3 touchdowns, 3 2-point conversions, 24. So just make this one, will you? Let's get to 25 and the game's over.
Right.
And he missed that one. I'm like, oh my God. And TV and the NFL's like, thank you, kid. Thank you, kid. At least they'll stick and stay for another drive for Tom.
Well, and I was really rooting for him. They had a drive where they got down around the 20 there, and I thought they were going to stall and kick a field goal. And I was kind of rooting for that because I thought, well, sometimes if you're on the basketball court and you've got a wide open 4-footer, which is sort of akin to an extra point, you'll gag on it a little bit because it's too easy and your brain goes, oh, yeah, this is an automatic. Any good shooter would make this. I've had that thought in my head. But when you're back at a 20-footer, lining it up with a hand in your face, you're just stroking it. You're letting it go. And that you might miss. If you're a good shooter, it's 50-50 or a little bit more than that, and you're cutting it loose. So I was like, man, I hope this kid gets a chance at a 44-yarder, because now it will be letting that leg fly, right? There's no babying it. There's no nursing it through the uprights, which I kind of felt like maybe he was doing. But they got into that range. I guess that they ended up scoring a touchdown, now that I think about it. But, man, I felt for him, but I am shocked as someone on the outside looking in here that this is the biggest game they will have played in 20-some years, and they're going in with a kicker with the yips. Let's fucking face it. To San Francisco against a really good team in an environment where the wind could whip, the rain could come, anything could happen there. Anything. And you need to be of massive intestinal fortitude as a kicker in that arena, in that game, as a Dallas Cowboy, and they're sending him back out there. I almost feel like they're doing him a disservice. But anyway, thoughts for people who are thinking about betting on Dallas, as Jeff recommends, and I'm with him. Number 7, Miami Dolphins. We're at the number 2 Buffalo Bills. This game ends up 34-31 Buffalo. Miami was impressive. Their new coach is impressive. He prepares hard with what he's got. He was in there with my Kansas State quarterback, the number 3 quarterback, Skylar Thompson, who did pretty damn well. Bullets flying against a really good team, against a, heralded, popular team. And the narrative for the Dolphins is you don't have your quarterback. Oh, wait a minute. You don't even have your second string quarterback. You're going to get blown out. It was one, I think maybe my dumbass said this one looks kind of easy. Dave Cherapin always loves it when I say easy. And it wasn't. And I thought the Dolphins were marvelous. I really did. And this was a good game to watch and showed you what playoff teams are made of.
Other than the Chargers blowing a 27-0 lead, which I know
don't bury the lead. We'll get there.
Other than that,
yeah,
this was the biggest shocker in my take, meaning how well that the Dolphins played, how well Skyler did. Great first half, took the lead in the second half, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking of the books and casinos here. I'm like, oh my God, not only are they going to clean up on every money line parlay, every teaser, every which way but loose, because everyone has Buffalo, every which way but loose, all the preseason futures, AFC champs, Super Bowl champs, which I'm holding, of course, since August. But the fact of the matter is, no Tua, no Bridgewater, who cares? Absolute hats off to that team. Hats off.
Josh Allen, more red zone issues, more interception issues. He just doesn't look quite like the guy who was definitely going to be the MVP when the season started. And they honestly don't look quite like the team that was definitely going to be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. Certainly not bad. They have a hell of a lot of good players, but it took 200-yard returns in Week 18 for them to win that game. And you can look at it both ways. They're a complete team. That happens when your special team is good. When you're good, right? On the other hand, Josh has been a big question mark ever since really kind of the elbow, right? And I haven't heard him talk about it. He winds up and throws 90 miles an hour sometimes, so it must be okay. But he still doesn't look the same.
I just think it comes too easy to him. 17-0 lead and the game's over. And he gets those brain farts to drive it. And again, almost John Elway-esque, where you got this window that's like this and you throw the ball so damn hard, there's no pass that you can't complete. And you just try to, make something instead of tucking the ball, throwing it away or whatever. And it comes in, I don't want to say the most inopportune times because it hasn't really hurt them yet. Yeah. And in comes Super Joe Cool, someone that went on the road last year to Tennessee, to Kansas City. Nothing phases this kid. So again, if Josh has 2 or 3 of these hiccups, someone on the other side is waiting to take advantage of them. But it hasn't hurt him yet.
No doubt. And that's what we saw with Dak in not turning the ball over and taking the check down. He was just timely and he did everything right that he's been doing wrong to lead the NFL interceptions. As you look at Bills Bengals, just a little teaser for everybody. What's the number look like and what's your initial blush feeling?
Yeah, the number here is shaded, which I was surprised. In other words, my overnight numbers were 4 and 50. Yeah. Right now at the Circa is 48. So it's gone down 2 points and 4.5. And I do see 5s in a lot of spots. Very surprised there. Again, if I saw that 3.5 number, I assume people would be riding the Bills up to 4.5 and 5. When the number starts at 4 and it's still going to 5, I am very surprised at this. I mean, we're talking Joe Burrow, the Bengals, a defense that doesn't give up more than 17. I'm surprised at the which way the numbers going. Again, before this tournament started, we all said you can put those three teams into a hat. Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo. And if you were doing a three-team round robin and pulled whoever you pulled up, you would have confidence could win and get to the Super Bowl.
Agreed. No doubt. The number 6 Giants traveled to the number 3 Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings had several numbers that stood out. First of all, they won 13 games, I think, so that stands out. Second of all, their plus minus was -3, which stood out because just example, Buffalo's was plus 126. So that's an oddity that makes you go like this. And then sort of all of us have fun playing the game of, is it a national TV game? Is it a big game? Kirk won't show up. But I did know, putting all of that aside with the Vikings, that the Giants were alive here. And you felt that as well. Playing too well, sort of playing with house money. You know, a rookie coach in who's done everything right, turned a complete culture and attitude around, taken a quarterback by the scruff of the neck and turned him into someone they now have to pay $200 million. Got Barkley rest in week 18 so that he was going to be fresher. Other than the fact that they didn't have any wide receivers, this Giant team looks like a little bit like those scary Giants teams from 86 and 90, right? Not quite as good on defense, but you can hearken up, those memories, I think, can't you?
100%. And I kept saying, where's Phil Simms? Where's Hostetler? Where is Eli Manning? Where is Mr. Tuma? But here they are, and they remind me of those Giant teams of the past, going out, winning 3 road games. Bill Parcells. What you said Dayball has done, can you imagine? The LA Chargers fan base must saying, oh my God, you just said everything that we were supposed to do.
Right.
And it would have made it so much easier. But he's done an amazing job. And this number here, which we will get to, a little surprising, but we'll get to that. So
okay. Giants defense looked pretty good. Cousins had Hawkinson all day, and that's it. I also want to know how Jefferson is taken out of these games so easily. That looked a lot like the game a couple of weeks ago. I don't care if he's double covered. He's faster than everyone. Run him right past the safety who takes one false step. Throw the ball over the top. Give him some opportunities. And they never even tried. It's like they conceded. Okay. Because they got him 4 catches early in the game, but it was 4 for 40 or 4 for 38. So at least he was getting touches. So we were feeding him a little bit. But they didn't even hardly take any chances. The minute I see a safety take a wrong step, I'm throwing the ball over the top to Jefferson 3 times in that game just to make something happen, right?
This is just my hot take on this. I think ever since the addition, which was an amazing move of them, of Hawkinson, maybe Cousins not wanting to make those mistakes, I'm not going to force it to Justin. I know I got Dalen, I got Osgood, I got one of the best tight ends in the game. And that's just my hot take on it, because Jefferson, hands down, in my eyes, is the best wide receiver in the game. And in fantasy purposes, he's the first receiver off the board. Next year, you're going to have a decision, McCaffrey or Jefferson, or some will take Barkley. But Jefferson is amazing. But you're right. He just checked out. And where are you, kid? We need you.
Yeah, and he gets pissy because he's immature still, right? But the bottom line is you got to get everybody together and say, listen, we're going to force it to you sometimes. So on this particular route, you got to come back to us a little bit, right? And you got to sell the double move hard. And when we see a safety take a wrong step, we're going to give you a chance. We're going to give you a 50-50 ball. We're going to give you a chance to win, because he's not very strong, but he can get up and he's got amazing hands and feet and hips. And we're going to give you opportunities to show that you are who you are. And they kind of didn't. They kind of gave up on it. Like you said, the quarterback gave up. And maybe it is because Hawkinson's having big games and he's open. And he is open. He's got linebackers and safeties chasing him. But that's not how the big play recipe for the Vikings need to win games, right? They need a running back to go to the house once in a while, every couple of games. And they need Jefferson to go to the house. And they need it to be, lightning and impactful. And it really wasn't. They didn't play badly, but I sure like the way the Giants were set up in that game better, and it worked out that way for them. I'm happy for the Giants, really. It's good when the New York teams are good in the NFL, too. Number 6, Ravens at the number 3, Bengals, another game that was really a surprise. Good teams find a way to win. We talked about that. But the Ravens hung and hung and hung. We knew they would. We knew that defense wasn't giving up a damn thing. And they, you get something from the Ravens, you're like, now we got something. And that defense will always say, no, you don't. You might have gotten fortunate. You might have made the right read. I might have got a good bounce, but it's going to be the same war that it was for the rest of this game. And that wears teams out. And, then an unfortunate play really is what turns that game. I was watching with my girlfriend. She's like, they can bounce back. I'm like, no, they can't. I don't know why he put that ball out there for everyone to swat at. And it turns out his coach threw him underneath the bus a little bit and basically said the whole play is designed for him to burrow in just off the right of the center's ass. And he made up his own mind that he'd seen on TV or something, the whole reach over thing, except he was about 2.5 yards from the goal line. So it was a long reach. I felt badly all the way around for that play, because that's a kid who probably had some decision right as he walked the line of scrimmage. I can reach this. I saw it on TV. I saw somebody do it. I can do it just like he did it. And he changed and didn't tell anybody else that's playing with him. So he's standing up, holding the ball out like a lollipop for big defenders. And then the perfect bounce, and a 280-pound man ran pretty damn fast down the field.
I'm going to circle back the wagon for 1 second, Brady. Yeah. Giants Philly opened at 7 with a 47.5. Is now 7.5 with a 48 there. Our second best play of the weekend here at ECSI was the over in that Giant Minnesota game.
I told everybody about that, and you nailed it. Yep.
So those were the numbers that I wanted to say there. But when you were talking, Drew Brees did that a couple of times. That little guy would come up there and go like this. Yeah. And he was just like that guy that was just, I mean, he was 1.5 yards short. But as you said, perfect bounce. Guy picks it up, scoops, and goes. And listen, I'm not a ref guy. I'm not here to say the refs blew it, but the refs blew it. Mark Andrews was just chugging, and he was right there, and he got pushed from behind. They really should have got the ball at the 20 or 25. Yep. Maybe they hold them to a field goal. And then the last play of the game, the Raven receiver had the ball right on his hip. It was right there.
That stuff, I marvel at world-class athletes who can't catch the ball. And I know he didn't expect it to come from there or whatever, but the whole drill is a drill. If you go to training camp ever with these guys, these are drills they do. You know, they do tip drills. They do bounce drills for onside kicks, for all kinds of things. They do all kinds of things to have people ready when the ball's not coming. So he didn't look ready, but you're in the end zone on what will be a Hail Mary. How can you not be ready? How can you not at least have your hands in front of you in case a bucket of money falls from the sky and you catch it? Because, yes, he had a chance. That ball basically hit both of his hands as God would have drawn it up on a Hail Mary play, a tip. You're in the back of the end zone with no one touching you, and all you got to do is catch it, wide receiver. Unbelievable.
And the funny thing, I would have bet Harbaugh 1 for 2 there too. We're going to go.
Oh, I said that with the people I was sitting with. I'm like, listen, if they score here, they're going for 2. And everyone's like, what? And I'm like, listen, they're going to get to 24 or whatever. They weren't supposed to get to 24. They ain't getting to 31. This is it. This shit goes to now. And you beg your quarterback who wants a contract to try and heal his wounds and play in the next game. So, yes, I'm 100% with you on that one. But the Bengals survive, and good teams find a way to win, and give them credit for going to the house. And you know, good things happen to good players. I've always said that. Number 7, Seattle at number 2, San Francisco. And at halftime, all of us had to have been impressed again. Pete's a good coach. Seattle hanging in. Extraordinarily accurate quarterback who I guess is comeback player of the year, only he's come back from just being mediocre for 5 years. Is that a comeback player? Does he win 5 little bitty comeback player of the year awards? No, I'm being a dick. He's been really good, but I wonder how he could be comeback player of the year.
I assume they would give it to maybe like a Saquon Barkley or something like that.
But Geno's been good. I mean, I'm
Geno's
thrilled for him.
Holy shit, Geno led the league, I think, in NFL quarterbacks for percentage, yada yada. I mean, don't forget this team, Seattle's over was 4.5 or 5 before the season started. Yep. They get rid of Russ and they're just using Geno. They bring in Drew Lock. Pete Carroll's just going through the motions. They're the story. I mean, you can say Daboll and the Giants, you can say the Lions and Coach Campbell there, but this is one of the top stories. And they played an amazing first half. Right there again, put the fear of God in them, but then like the cream in the coffee, a couple mistakes. Thanks for playing.
Yeah, 25-6 in the second half. Niners, Brock Purdy, as we talked about off camera, is now winning. They never lose with McCaffrey there. It's just like you pictured. McCaffrey in San Francisco with that offense and that coaching staff is just like you pictured. They can line him up anywhere. They can use him however they want. He might catch 10 catches one day. He might only get 8 carries. They're going to do all they can do to keep it around 18, at least until they get to the Super Bowl, right? Because you have to remember he does get hurt. But I mean, they've just orchestrated it beautifully. They've been a wonderful team to watch. The question as we go forward is, And in Dallas, we talked about this. Brock Purdy is what everyone's pointing to if you're a Cowboy fan, saying our pass rush will make a difference. He's going to feel us, right? We're going to generate some doubt in this young man's mind who hasn't really played very many good teams in his, I believe, 6-game winning streak.
The Brock star, Mr. Irrelevant. It's just amazing when a plan comes together. Debo now healthy. Elijah Mitchell now healthy. Here's Christian McCaffrey. All of a sudden, it's not Montana to Clark. It's Purdy to Kittles. I mean, I've seen the script. You've seen the script.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. And this is what's going to happen on Sunday. Which quarterback wins the turnover battle? And it's going to get ugly for one of the teams. You're correct. He has not seen a pass rush like this. He hasn't seen Parsons. You guys play keep away with the ground attack. When they put the 6-7 men in the box, you go over the top with CeeDee Lamb, with Schultz, with Gallup, with T.Y. Hilton, who's been a nice addition for you. But again, you cannot throw 2 or 3 picks. You can't fumble the ball. You have to win that battle. Put some pressure on Purdy. We're waiting for that brain fart, that hiccup, that fear of God, which he had in Vegas. Vegas had them.
Right.
But he found a way to survive. But this isn't in Vegas in a meaningless game. This is win and go to the NFC Championship.
So here's who's Purdy has played. They went upside the head of the Buccaneers at home when the Buccaneers were in the middle of just being below average. They beat the Seahawks in Seattle. That's probably the best win because we know they play well there, 21-13. So they didn't put up a lot of points. They beat the Commanders. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Cardinals. And they beat the Seahawks again in San Francisco, where they turned it on in the second half. So that's who he's played, right? He didn't face the Chiefs or the Rams even, who weren't very good this year, or some of the better teams in the league, the Packers, the 49ers, whatever, the Cowboys, the Eagles. He didn't face any of those teams. So that's another thing to think about when you consider what you think the Brock Stars' opportunities are here in this game. I'm curious to watch. Number 5, Chargers of not San Diego played at the number 4 Jaguars, and the Jags win 31-30. And if you didn't watch, you're like, great game, boy, came down to the wire, good plays everywhere. The Chargers were ahead in this game 27-0, and Coach Staley saved his game by getting his team into the playoffs. He threw a little doubt in everyone's mind because he allowed Big Mike Williams to get hurt in Week 18 when he probably shouldn't have been on the field. So that took away one of his key weapons. But the Chargers run out and play a really good first half, 27-0. Trevor Lawrence looks like a rookie again, making mistakes, forcing passes, unlucky, a combination of all of the above. And it's an ass whipping, 27-7 right before halftime. And I thought, maybe that matters. Maybe that touchdown matters a little bit. And the script flipped. Lawrence was great. And the Chargers do what they too often do with all the talent that's on that team. They stop scoring. So shocking, no, but surprising. I mean, that's a big-ass comeback in a playoff game right there. Jaguars 31-30 after trailing 27-0.
Some brainiac, some genius decides to go onto his app, or however he did it, up 27-0, and BetMGM, I think it was, or Caesars, grants him an available wager to wager $1.4 million on the Chargers up 27-0 to win $11,000. And he decided to do it, and he loses his $1.4 million there. Staley, you have Joshua Kelly. You have, wow, a brain fart here. Austin Eckler. You can, I'm not telling you not to pass the ball anymore. I'm just saying, you could run the ball a couple more times to keep that clock going. And we talked about this before the game started. Who's got the edge at coach? Yep. I mean, it was a landslide. Super Bowl champ, good with young players. This Jaguar team was ascending in the right way. And again, you couldn't have played a worse quarter and a half. He said, don't panic, guys. It's okay. We're home. We got a 27-7. Let's take it to the locker room, and the rest is history. This team is going to be fun in the next few years.
Yeah,
this team added Calvin Ridley in the during the year. Their offense is going to be dangerous. Their quarterback's going to be dangerous. They got a good defense. I'm not saying they'll be dangerous this Saturday, but they'll be fun. They'll be one of the funner games to watch.
Yeah, and when you look at it, I like box scores sometimes, and you look at the fact that that kid in the second half got himself four touchdown passes or 3 touchdown passes in the second half, but he got Ingram involved, he got Zay Jones involved, he got Kirk involved, Etienne ran the football. I mean, it was a complete effort. It wasn't, some Herculean thing by the quarterback or anybody else. The defense locked down, and they played just a marvelous second half, and they felt, the pressure that San Diego was putting on themselves, and went ahead and ran with it. Jaguars at KC. What's that line look like to you? What's first blush?
9.5 juiced at 05. So next move 2.9 with a 52. Those were my overnight numbers. Now at the circa 8.5 with a 53. So some money sprinkling in on the Jags and on the over. Listen, this Kansas City team, don't forget, like Philly, got a bye week. Enables them to rest some hurt bodies, a perfect time. In comes a team that just played last weekend, young team. Good coach, young team. Mm-hmm. Probably going to make mistakes. You guys beat them. I think it was 27-17.
I was looking at that, and I remember, the Chiefs controlled that game, but never thumped them. Never went away. It just looked like the better team was going to win, but they certainly weren't, sending a message or putting a lesson on anybody. And now that's probably part of the reason the line's as close as it is. The Jaguars have seen this. They've seen it. They've seen Arrowhead. They've been there. They didn't win, but they survived it, and they will have learned something from it. So, yeah, I'm not surprised about that line at all. But go back and look at Andy Reid with bye weeks. It's a 80%, 85% win rate. So, and the MVP's there, and he's not through trying to prove what the slight that he felt when everybody said the Bills quarterback was going to win or the Bengals quarterback was going to win. Chiefs were going to win 10 games. There are a lot of people, a lot of experts saying the Chiefs would be lucky to win 10 this year and finish maybe second in the division. So we'll see about that. The Chiefs certainly have their warts. There is no doubt about that. Let's see. So it is, let's peruse. Jacksonville will travel to Kansas City on Saturday, which makes sense. The Chiefs had the week off. Is it, what do you have it at now? Is it 8.5?
I get 8.5 with a 53.
53. Okay. All right. Initial thought?
Kansas City will win the game. I know this whenever we lean on Kansas City to cover an 8, a 9, or a 10, especially at home. They never do. I'll probably let me just see. I don't know if it's too early, but I'll be interested to see if we can pull up for us. Might be too early because I'll tell her I'd be lean, obviously. Yeah, it's too early. I'd be probably peaking. Let's do some basic math there. 53 with an 8, 28, 20, nope, 31, 21. So that's right around there. So if I can get a 30.5, I'd be looking at the Kansas City team total over. I expect them to get into the low 30s. So I don't have to worry about do they get a backdoor cover up 10, up 13, and Lawrence to Zay Jones, when it lands on 6 or 7.
Love it. Okay. Well, and by the way, we'll get much deeper into all this on Thursday evening when we have more updates on injuries and practice and all that kind of stuff. But Jacksonville at Kansas City right now, Jeff likes Kansas City and that 30 number because they score 30 rolling out of bed. Cincinnati at Buffalo, probably the game of the week. It's one I'm looking forward to. And as a Chiefs fan, I'm like, well, at least one of these two bastards isn't going to be playing against my team. And it's odd because as a Chiefs fan, I'm like, who am I rooting for here? Because I really want to be at home, right? And if I play the Bills, I'm not at home. I'm going to Atlanta to 12,000 people who don't give a shit. And, well, I guess that's not true. Probably get 30,000 Chiefs fans there. But it's an oddity. And I guess the more I think about how they came to that decision, right, that Buffalo sort of lost its chance to keep its number one seed. They can't keep it from the Chiefs because they end up with a higher winning percentage, but let's just call it a draw, and that the Chiefs do get the bye, which is certainly helpful because, the big bummer for Buffalo is not only not getting the number one seed and playing at home in that nightmare of a stadium with those crazy people, it's also having to run through Cincy first before they get a chance to play Kansas City. And Kansas City fans like me are like, thank goodness, I don't want to play both those teams. I didn't want to play both those teams at all. So Cincinnati at Buffalo is on Sunday. Great stuff. -5 is what I saw now to Buffalo, which surprised you a little bit. I have a feeling you're leaning Buffalo because of that.
Initial thought, yes. I go back to Kansas City for 1 second. You
Sure.
are set up exactly like the Patriots were for 2 decades. Patriots, first round bye, in comes the tomato can that we
Right.
call them. You'd be 9, 10, 11-point favorites. You steamrolled them, and then you had 1 game to go at home.
Gotta be one pretty good team. Yep.
To get to the bowl. So in a perfect world for you, I'd say, because I would be rooting for the Bengals. Here's why: you want to stay home. You want them. Listen, you remember what happened last year. And here's where I poo-poo the NFL. I get this part of it, but listen, Kansas City and Buffalo, if they were to meet, neither one of them is in a dome. So I get the fact you're throwing it in Atlanta. Now it's a track meet. Last one who has the ball there, first one to 38, probably going to win that game.
Yep.
Play it in Chicago. Play it somewhere outdoors with the elements.
And again, as a Chiefs fan, I agree with you there because I think Buffalo is certainly going to be favored in a track meet at a neutral field. I think they have more weapons that are proven on the offensive side, especially at wide receiver. That quarterback moves around and runs pretty good. And there's just something that makes me feel like I don't want to play a neutral field, 72-degree day, perfect day against Buffalo. If I'm Kansas City, I want it to be snowy, even if I'm in Buffalo, right? That the level of perfection comes back this way a little bit. And when number 15 in Kansas City has to deal with a lack of perfection in the world around him, that's when he pulls magic out that almost nobody else can pull out. So I'm honestly thinking to myself, I didn't want to play both teams, but I did want to play in a cold weather situation, in theory, even if it's in Buffalo.
Yeah, and I'm right in my head. I'm like saying you're going to need a huge day from like a Juju.
Yeah.
It's not going to be MVS. I'm thinking in my mind, track star. I'm hoping Hardman might be ready by then.
Still
in
not
another 2
practicing
weeks.
today. Not practicing today.
I mean, you need someone to go to the mailbox.
What's the
Just
kid's
go.
name? I blank on him, and it's the team that I love that they got from the Giants.
Oh, Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney. Okay, so they've been gently working him in, and the full plan in back of Andy's head, I know this is, I may need to throw him 10 balls in a playoff game. But he's a hamstring waiting to happen getting out of his Ferrari. So they've been really trying to pack him on dry ice and keep him from getting hurt when he sneezes. So I guess they're going to get to that. But that's the secret weapon here is Kadarius Toney in hopefully 5 or 6 situations, Hardman-like situations, bubble screens, et cetera, because he's got lightning speed and way better hips and stuff really than Hardman does. Hardman, as fast as he is a little stiff, but Toney's not stiff. He is something, and that's sort of maybe their secret weapon there. And, I mean, it's nice to have the running backs they got working too.
Tony has done it again.
Yeah. New York Giants at Philadelphia on Saturday as well. We're not shocked by this matchup at all. I wonder how the Philly faithful are feeling, and I wonder how the Philly team themselves are feeling, having to play this team for the 3rd time. And I'm not hearing anything about how Philadelphia's quarterback is feeling because he was not very good in Week 18, and that's not even necessarily an assessment of his game. He didn't look right, and I don't know if he is right. So Philadelphia fans have to be nervous. If I was a Philly fan, I would be. They played virtually wonderful football all year long on a relatively easy schedule, steamrolling people. Anytime there was a doubt, they could show you offense, they could show you defense, they could show you speed. They were terrifying to watch. And I wonder now if he's ever going to be that healthy again, and this Giant team is going to look at him for the 3rd time. I bet you they're actually not that unhappy about this matchup.
And the numbers I had an opener of 7 with a 47.5. I'm looking right now, 48 with a 7.5. Yep. Again, it's one of these 3rd time. Philly went to New York and put up like 48 points early in the season. Actually, the first time they went there, I guess it was sometime in December. Yep. Then they're 13, 14-point favorites in a game where the Giants had nothing to play for. Philly just gets in there, wins the game, doesn't cover. Now you got a 7 to a 7.5. I mean, Vegas telling you right now, 28-20, 27-20, somewhere in that area. Again, you have no idea. I'll have Dan Alexander on Thursday from Philly. We'll get some inside scoop on what's going on before we come on at night. But, part of me wants to believe in this Giants team. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. It's a great story. We've seen this a few times, but
Yeah.
if that real Philly team comes of age and Jalen is healthy, thanks for playing. They win the turnover battle because we know how hard it is to win in Philly in the regular season. Add a playoff in front of it, one game from hosting the NFC Championship. So it's a tough call. I'm going to wait till Thursday. I don't
I'm
really
with
have
you.
a strong lean there.
I'm with you because I look at this and I think the Giants are exactly where they fucking want to be. Exactly. Do they want to go to San Francisco this weekend? Hell no. Hell no. Let's go play a team we've seen twice that will underestimate us, that has maybe a banged up quarterback. We got all the tape we need on this team. We're reminding ourselves and fans of something that happened twice in the 90-ishes, right? Where you beat two Patriots team with an average, dumb-looking quarterback. And that whole thing could happen here again. If I'm the Giants, I'm thrilled with where I am, and got to be feeling the fan base and the players like we're playing with house money, because they can sit around and say we don't even have any wide receivers, and our tight end that we thought was really progressing was out so long with the eye thing that he's okay, but we don't really have anything special to give you, and Barkley's probably getting a little bit tired, and so this all lays on Daniel Jones. This shouldn't be the case, but we've seen, as you said, history does repeat itself, and we have seen these Giants teams and their fans and their fan base are smart. They've seen this before.
And the funny thing, and this is why I'm smiling ear to ear, if you could spring the upset, and if Dallas sprung the upset, Dallas is hosting the NFC Championship.
Wouldn't that be great? That would be so great. It really would. There's a lot of people who are really looking forward to this next game we're going to talk about, and that's Dallas at San Francisco. Harkens back all kinds of memories of Aikman and Montana, and Aikman and Young, and just great player after great player, and two historic organizations. And San Francisco's gotten the better of this lately because they've been the better team in the last 10 years with some consistency. They've established themselves, I think, and I think you'll agree, as a team, what the Ravens are, right? And I think at this point, what the 49ers are. Well coached with a basic little West Coast type offense that really is actually pretty simple based on zone blocking and the ability to run the football, and little plays work off of other plays, right? McVay had a lot of this going on when the Rams won. But San Francisco's established themselves as who they are. Now, this is a Cowboy team that's starting to say, you know what, we won 12. We're going to the NFC Championship game. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to win 12 more next year. And for the first time in a long time, the Cowboys are actually a good franchise, right? A team that we're going to look at next year and say, yeah, we like them to win the division or win 11 or 12 games. So it's been a long time since anybody felt that. Romo's teams were fun to watch, but rarely did they put back-to-back seasons together. Almost never, because of injury or what have you. But they didn't. This team looks good. I'm happy for Mike McCarthy too.
Yeah, and I guess now Dan Quinn is Mike McCarthy with that win. Obviously, there'll be no Sean Payton entering the building. Now there'll be teams that want to poach Dan Quinn, and we've talked about that all season long. And you have
Kellen Moore's on several lists as well.
Yes. Looking at the NFC East moving forward with the Jalen Hurts, with the Dax, you get it now. As you said when we started the show, the Giants now going to, a worst case scenario, franchise Daniel the next 2 years, which is going to cost you 50 and 50. So why not suck it up, give him a 4-year deal at 40 per 160? We'll guarantee 3 of the years, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do it. All good stuff. I can't wait. So Jacksonville at KC on Saturday, New York Giants at Philly on Saturday night, Cincinnati at Buffalo Sunday afternoon, and Dallas at San Francisco will wind up this foursome as we look to see who's going to be in the championship games. Quick notes on the coaches, and I don't want to go through all this. Here's who got fired, and we already know this. Cliff Kingsbury got fired. Everybody expected it. He took a one-way ticket to where? Where'd he go? Guam or somewhere? Huh?
Thailand.
I'd love to talk to him about that. I really would. One-way ticket to Thailand did Cliff Kingsbury. New GM is also coming to that team, and that little bitty quarterback who has such skill and lacks maybe a little desire is in charge of that organization. That's a little scary. Matt Rule of the Panthers is out. Nathaniel Hackett of Denver is out. Both those things we knew were coming. Lovie Smith gets put into kind of a no-win situation. Now they finally have a top draft pick. They're going to get themselves a quarterback, and he's fired. Frank Reich in Indy is on a lot of people's lists, and people are interviewing Frank Reich because I think People think he is traditionally a very good fundamental coach who communicates well with his players. So it won't surprise me if he gets a job. And the Chargers offensive coordinator got fired so far. Joe Lombardi, I think is right.
Mhm.
And I would anticipate Staley getting fired for the Chargers because in my mind and everything that I'm hearing, that's where Sean Payton wants to go. Who's on the list to be interviewed? Sean Payton with every one of those teams. Cardinals, Panthers, Broncos, Texans. Everyone wants to interview Sean Payton, and he hasn't done any of it yet because in my mind, he's waiting to see what happens to the Chargers. And damn, as a Chiefs fan, does that suck.
Hey, listen, are they also the Chargers offensive line coach or quarterback coach or something later this afternoon? With those two moves, I think Staley, believe it or not, saves his jobs. When I was talking
Well, I hope so.
when I was talking to a gentleman from LA today, we know Spanos doesn't like to spend, and the fact it's going to cost you a ransom to bring in a Sean Payton, and Denver's going to need a new coach as
the
well.
anticipation is a first-round pick. I mean, with all these people that are interested in him, I mean, the Saints are probably going to grab a first-round pick at least out of this transaction to have the Saints give up Sean Payton, right? Isn't that what we anticipate as a first-round pick at minimum?
That's what they're asking. Maybe someone will come to him and offer him a second and something later. But if you are a ready-made team, San Diego, Chargers, the Chargers, it's a no-brainer. Listen, get into Sean Payton. You're in a tough division, but Sean Payton immediately goes right for the Chiefs. How do we build this team to beat Patrick Mahomes? They don't worry about the Raiders. They don't worry about the Broncos. I'm coming right for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Right. Yep. No doubt. Interesting stuff. So Sean McVay now is going to grace the Rams with his return. There are a lot of people a little pissy about that the wonderful Sean guided them and got them there, and then he got the quarterback he wanted. He won a Super Bowl. Good for you. But they mortgaged the world, and players got hurt and or retired, and the Rams were just as bad this year as they were good. And now Sean has offers to be on TV, and he'll let you know. That hasn't gone over well in a lot of places, and I actually don't blame them. Whatever. He did what he said he was going to do. He won a Super Bowl, so he has all the rights in the world to pick and choose what he wants to do. But if I'm the Rams and the Ram faithful, I'm not that thrilled about that either. I'm really not. We did exactly what you wanted us to do. We got the players that you wanted in here. You managed to win a Super Bowl, barely, and now it goes bad this year, and you're not sure if you're interested anymore. I'm with the people who are pissy about that notion.
He was 37 last year, wins the Super Bowl. Amazon comes knocking and says, hey, I'm going to pay you $18 million for 18 games, broadcast color, or you can go back and try to defend your Super Bowl. And put yourself at that age. Listen, you made it to the pinnacle. You won a Super Bowl. And now you can go into the booth, follow Tony Romo, John Madden, whatever you want, and get paid $1 million a game. And he decided to come back and defend it. And, Stafford gets hurt. Cooper Kupp gets hurt. Everything. They tried to trade Akers. It was a bad year. And he thought about it, and I'm hearing or heard he's coming back. He's coming back.
Yeah, I heard that today too.
So Stafford, I heard, is coming back. So, which is surprising. So now you got Baker Mayfield and whatever. So maybe this is his swan song. Aaron Donald, I heard, is retiring. So you're capped, but you got the trophy. So it's kind of one of those, Brady. How long has it been since Dallas has won a Super Bowl?
1995, right? In the January of 96.
Okay. So if my math is correct, it's been 27 years. Going on 28. I mean, I think in between there, if Jerry could have bought a Super Bowl by now and be capped for the next 5 to 10 years, he would have taken it.
Yes,
exactly.
No doubt.
The Rams did what they had to do. New stadium. So it's a tough one there, Brady, but 37, prime, beautiful wife, all the money you want. Tough call.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think you reach that level and you have that taste of success. He's so competitive. And when you're 37, your blood flows faster. Your muscles are still firing. I think he was looking to see if there was a way out to grab one of these other jobs to change his narrative overall and to go back and be a hero at rebuilding something else real quick. He doesn't want to stay through what I think you and I agree because of their predicament is most likely an 8-win season next year would be pretty damn good for the Rams. I guess their quarterback is returning. I hear he's a Dallasite. So there was a lot of conjecture that he might retire, and that wouldn't have been the worst retirement I ever saw either. He played a long time. He got the shit beat out of him in Detroit. He went to L.A., an interesting oddity that could happen again this year. He led the NFL in interceptions last year, taking his team to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. If Dak Prescott gets the Super Bowl, he will have done the same thing, lead the NFL in interceptions in 11 games. But those are all interesting. New GM in Tennessee got announced today. I think Ron Carthon. Ran or Ron? I wrote down R-A-N. Is that a misprint by me? Or
No,
is okay. So that no one really cares. Cardinals are interviewing, and he's on every list, Sean Payton, Brian Flores, and DeMeco Ryans, and a couple others. Panthers are interviewing Sean Payton, Jim Caldwell on a lot of lists, Frank Reich, and more. Broncos are interviewing Jim Caldwell. Wanted to interview Harbaugh, who said today he's not leaving Michigan, that he is staying. I don't blame him. I don't think I see Harbaugh as a slam dunk in the NFL, as a success, and that's a pretty good gig in Michigan. Raheem Morris on their list, DeMeco Ryans, and David Shaw. David Shaw, Stanford, former Stanford coach, right? The Texans are interested in, get this, Sean Payton, same as everyone else. Ben Johnson, the Lions, their offensive coordinator, and the Denver defensive coordinator. The Colts are interested in Bieniemy of the Chiefs. Interesting to me that he's only on that list. That's the only list I found Eric Bieniemy on. The word kind of is he doesn't interview very well, because he's had some interviews in the last 2 or 3 years and hasn't gotten the jobs. Aaron Glenn, always a favorite of mine. I met him a few times. And Wink Martindale, certainly with the impact that he's making with the Giants, is on this list for the Colts as well. So all that's interesting and developing. But I would think the Sean Payton thing getting settled makes a lot of these things move forward faster, right? It's like waiting for top free agents in baseball to sign before the guys just below them can sign. Jim Caldwell, that one surprised you that so many people are interested?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, me too.
Go back to your Rand versus Ron. It is Rand.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I ran to my phone to check.
I appreciate that very much. You ran fast. Looking forward very much to Jacksonville at KC, Giants at Philly, and then Sunday, Cincy at Buffalo, Dallas at San Francisco. One more time for the people as we lead them to us being here Thursday, narrowing this game down. Feelings, Jacksonville at KC, real quick.
Kansas City wins. I don't think they cover. I like
not been good covering at all at home with big double-digit-ish numbers. No doubt. Cincinnati at Buffalo, the other AFC game.
Surprisingly, I mean, I thought the world would be on the Bengals.
Me too.
Cool Joe. Numbers going the other way. I got to do some more scrubbing, but it looks like somehow Bills team total or something like that.
Okay. Giants at Philadelphia for the third time, or they play each other for the third time Saturday night. 7.5 over and under on that one. I'm interested in that. What's the total on that one?
48. Now, don't forget, when we talked last week,
that's the number we bet on.
6 games, and that was the high water mark. Now you got Jacksonville KC at 53, and you got another 48.5.
What's Cincy Buffalo?
Opened at 50, down to 48.
Okay. Wonder if that's weather driven. Okay, and then the final game, Dallas at San Francisco on Sunday evening to cap things off. The Cowboys will cap things off 2 weekends in a row as the final game of the weekend in San Francisco, 6:30. And your initial inclination is you feel some Cowboys here.
How about them boys? I had talked before we started. The number that smelt the most was the Cowboys plus 500 to win the NFC. And, we have some futures on the 49ers. So this one, again, I was looking for that 5.5, 6 number. It was 3.5. To me, Cowboys, 3.5, 4. And if the 49ers win, it's going to be by 3 or less.
Yeah, that kid is going to have to find Micah Parsons, and he's going to come from everywhere in that game. No doubt about it. Jeffrey, it was a lot of fun. I will look forward to Thursday night, as will everyone else, I hope. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, listening to Sportsbook Confessions and some of our reflections into what we did right or wrong. It was very fun being with you guys tonight. Love you, buddy. Look forward to seeing you Thursday night. This is going to be exciting stuff. What else do we want to show the people? We got basically, what do we got? 5-6 games here. What else we want to do? Want to tease a little bit more NBA on the tip of things on Thursday night as well, just to give them a little touch of our diversity.
Teaser. We could have our Brock Star Kiefer maybe dig up a few big-time college basketball games happening this weekend.
Let's do that. Let's
and
do
we can get in. I won't talk about my Yukon Huskies that have lost 4 out of the last 5. That's for another show.
It's early. It's early. It's early. For Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest, I'm Brady Tinker at DFW Sports Beat for Sportsbook Confessions. Thanks, everybody, for watching us tonight. We'll see you Thursday night later in the evening and get you ready for what will be a fantastic weekend of sports.